Arsentiy Kharitonov, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. It's good. I'm glad to be here.
How did I do on the last name pronunciation?
You were almost there.
Ah,
It's the K is silent, should be silent. So it's a Kharitonov, like a Harry Potter Kharitonov.
I see. Okay. Well, for audiences who don't know you, would you mind introducing yourself, what it is that you do, a little bit about your background?
Yes. So I was born in Russia. It's a South region. And my sister made sure that I would enter the music school when I was 5 years of age. And I passed my examination quite thoroughly. I mean, I was accepted. But then my attitude pretty much did not allow me to be a good little student. Um, I preferred riding my bicycle instead. So the conscious decision to become a musician was only when I was 15, and that also was at the same time when I moved to St. Petersburg, and I had thorough year or 2 years of preparing myself for entrance examinations at the St. Petersburg College of Music, named after Rimsky-Korsakov, which at that time was affiliated with St. Petersburg Conservatory. And by sheer luck, I was accepted. By the way, I think it's due to the professor who I was wanting to study. He pretty much failed to understand, or to sort of understand that I couldn't do anything. I was this prepared guy with a certain repertoire, but I didn't know how to practice. My ear training was horrible. My sight reading was abysmal. So he sort of took me into his studio, and after that he regretted it since, because I was horrific. Just my first years, I was pretty much playing a catch-up game when I was only learning how to practice. And then he completely just he said, "Okay, look, I have no desire to teaching you, because you're just." I mean, I literally heard from his mouth that he said, "You're just not talented in music. Do something else." So, but to put it short, after 4 years studying there, there are certain things that I was able to actually achieve quite well. And after that, I moved to the United States, sort of like through the back door. I was studying in Louisiana, University of, what was that university? It was in Natchitoches. It's a very nice place, actually, Northwestern University of Louisiana. And yes, and after that, had my degrees at University of North Texas here in Denton, Texas. And that's pretty much what it is. And those degrees don't matter. We are sort of going there. I mean, that's my background. Nothing too impressive, actually. Speaking of just sheer curriculum vitae where I studied, it's not a Juilliard or Royal College of Music, nothing like that. So, but right now I'm a performer. I'm a concert pianist with Shoup Artist Management in New York. I'm also a composer. Composing is my sort of most special activity that I believe I'm better at it. That's my most I don't know how to call it. Like, this is my credo. Let's put it this way, composer. So and I'm managing to survive as a musician, which is rather difficult nowadays.
And you're coming off of which piano concerto? How many piano concertos have you written? I know you recently put one on YouTube that has done quite well for especially an original composition, a new piano concerto. It has a good number of views right now.
Yeah, it's my only piano concerto. I actually not even, at least right now, not planning to compose any other piano concerto at the moment. I have other ideas and other projects that I would like to sort of go after. But the whole composition process started when I was doing my DMA, Doctorate of Musical Arts at University of North Texas. Just because simply I felt like my agent was asking, Arsentiy, tell me again, what's the special thing, or the special quality about you? What are you better than, let's say, other army of pianists? What's it? What makes you be more sort of original, interesting? And then that's the time when I started thinking that, hey, I compose music. That's something. So instead of being in that line of hundreds and hundreds of pianists standing in that one line to get to a concert stage and playing, let's say, Schubert or Beethoven or Rachmaninov, yet again, I can form my own line, playing my own pieces. And so that was how it all sort of started. And I sort of felt that I have something to say about, in music, original things, my own, and since then I started to compose first some miniatures, then some piano etudes, primarily for my instrument. Then I had a sort of agenda to be able to compose for every instrument that I consider to be an independent concert instrument, let's say violin, cello, some chamber music. So during the pandemic, I had a project with Julia Bushkova, and I composed a violin concerto that will be premiered this March with Tasso Symphony. So that was my kind of big orchestral work, considering that the orchestra is involved. After that, it was piano. It was I don't remember what was after. After that, it was the symphonic work, short one, the City of Dees, based on Dante Alighieri, his Divine Comedy. And very recent is my piano concerto. This is my sort of last ambitious big project that I managed to pull as a pianist as well. So I played the piano part there. So.
Okay, so there's a few threads to pull on here, and I have a lot of questions I've been wanting to ask you.
Yeah, sure.
But the first one, why is music, I would say captured, but I've heard you say in the past, music is the victim of academia. First, what do you mean by that?
So, okay, because we have to go first about what is the academia. Academia is a system, okay? I think we all would agree with that. It's a system. It's a well-performed system for, I guess, already centuries. It's a system where people get paid. Let's just bring this also. That's important. People get paid. People compete. Who is better sort of functioneer in that system, okay? It has its own ladder, and it has ladder climbers, okay? People climb, people get certain points. It's a kind of like a game, okay? For example, also that system has clients, like students, like the main food source, okay? And academia has planning, just like any system. It has to have planning. Imagine like in every enterprise, any firm, company, they have to project and see all the prospects, how they are doing. And therefore, their main reason for existence, or the most time that they're being preoccupied is how to find more students. Okay, how to find more clients. That's all. And they will do anything possible in order to have those clients. They cannot risk. They will cease to exist if they don't preoccupy themselves with finding new clients. Okay, and when people are so preoccupied with that idea, with clientele, they forget about what they originally were created for. Okay, that is the sort of, just when you're preoccupied with something else, something, the essence is being lost. Okay, so they're fighting, they're being the tactical decisions, but they're not being strategists, and well, not even strategists. They just forget what they are there for. And the system became so big, it's so huge that it just like a huge, star. It can implode and the gravity, under its own gravity, and just become this black hole. Okay, so because in every little town in the United States you have a university. In that every university you have some kind of liberal arts college or whatever department. In every department you will have masters and doctors, and who the heck knows them. It's like you will have this army of fake degrees, fake music, fake grants, fake curriculum vitae, etc., etc. Of course, I have to sort of push all the way one direction in order to explain my point, why it's a system. Of course, there's lots of great, wonderful musicians, and there's wonderful professors who actually care about their students. Yes, there are some. But I'm just talking just in general about system, okay? It's not, nothing bad, nothing good about it. It's just, it's an objective, it's a system, and every system has to survive. Another aspect about colleges, and then why the academia and why the music became this victim, because academia, how do they recruit students? We have to sort of talk about it. We don't recruit students, well, academias, they don't recruit students simply by saying, we will offer you this wonderful world of music where you will feel like you will feel safe from these hardships of realities, where you will feel you will be like in this magic chamber of innermost wishes. La 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 la. No, they don't say that. They say they offer success. They offer success. They say, study with us and you will be this and that and that and that. You will have fantastic curriculum. You will have these wonderful skills that will make you successful. And of course, I know why they talk about success and not music. They talk about success because everyone else wants to be successful. We are living in the paradigm of people who want to be successful. Because if you're not successful, it means like, oh, you're a loser, or you are whatever. You just, so success is important, especially when they kind of sprinkled sugar on that honey, saying like successful success. You will be on all the stages, and you will have the spotlight on you, and you will sort of swim in this fame and money. This is a deception, obviously, because and majority of young kids, 13 to 15 year of age, we know that in this age people are very egotistical, they're very narcissistic, it's all about me, okay? And so that, of course, that applies to them, and the system knows, okay, that's a good leverage. We can manipulate the newcomers to manipulate the client, and here comes the reality. People get their degrees. Okay, in 90s, in 80s and 90s, they were getting their master's degrees. They still could get to some kind of college and teach, right? After that, they said like, uh-oh, there are too many of us. So the system started to build on. They said, now you need to get doctoral degree, and then you'll for sure get the job. You will be successful. So they created the pyramid started to grow even more. Okay, so there are more people. It's sort of, but at the same time, the system started to feel, oh yeah, we just need to create something else in order to keep that rat race. Okay, but at the end, still, who is suffering? The majority of those people with music degrees, they are suffering because after that they are very bitter and sour because they did not have success. The sheer number of hours they put to practicing and they put to just being better at their instrument or whatever else is enormous, and they feel like it didn't pay back, didn't pay off. Mm-hmm. And that attitude of just very sour feeling that people feel like, oh, we've been tricked somehow. And then they started saying, like, well, it's because we are living in this world of people who don't care about music, or we don't, all this kind of stuff, but all this ripples on the water. And everyone sort of tries to find their own aim, who to blame, so to speak. Okay. But originally, the problem is in the first, making the first step. And the first step is, why are we playing, or why are we being associated with music at all? Why do we need music?
And how would you answer that question?
Look, everyone has their own goals about when they listen to music. Like, I mean, every listener finds their own things in music. You know, some people, for example, seek this kind of satisfaction by just sheer audio satisfaction, right? Some people seek entertainment. Some people seek some sense of revelation or catharsis. Someone just seek peace and quiet, and some other people seek being tormented. Okay, so it's all the music offers all sorts of things. But one thing, what the attitude issue is that people look at music thinking like, oh, this is my horse which I'm going to ride for my personal gains. That is the wrong attitude right away. It's a wrong attitude from the beginning. The idea that you want music in order to be successful. I mean, they cannot separate music and success. So, and that's exactly what people I would say, in academia, need to be telling their students, every professor, I'm here to teach you how to appreciate music and how to love music and how to look at it as a phenomenon, rather than I'm here to make sure that you're successful or make sure that you're happy. I mean, again, the whole concept of happiness is, I think, it's BS. You know, we need to be looking for meanings rather than shortcuts and success. It's like what we call like immediate versus long-term gratification. You know? Because everyone wants to look for this immediate gratification. You play something, you learn something, and then you have a prize, you have a medal, you have some kind of won a competition. I mean, that's it's the road to nowhere.
Okay, so let me try and link some of these ideas together and get to a point that a lot of people struggle with. So you mentioned narcissism, the combination of success and music. There's not a separation, and there's one of the things I've commented on in the past is the spirit of narcissism. And you see a lot of people who get up on social media and they're not there for the music. They're flashing whatever and being unbelievably flamboyant and oh, look at me, look how great I am. And it's clear that the music is not what is at the center. And one of the things that you have done, I think, quite well is you've developed an audience that appreciates music. They appreciate the artwork that you are putting forward. Even though you are the arbiter of this art form, you are not the center of this art form. The art is the center of what it is that you do.
Absolutely.
So with that idea, how can we as artists, we as musicians, develop an audience in good taste? What does that mean to develop an audience in good taste using social media and avoiding that trap of narcissism?
Well, here's the thing. It almost becomes a never-ending spiral, because the social media, that system is oriented about who has more views, who has more that. It's again, it puts you into that red race about, are you successful in just finding finding more views. But what I would probably say, it's not about finding viewers or finding people who like to listen temporarily what you have to say. Is like get on your reel that has like several million views. It's not about that. It's about finding 15, 10 listeners who actually will remember your art and will go back to it. Not random passing by people, not those myriads of neophytes who decided can click like once and then forget who you are. Okay, not forget who you are, forget what you were actually doing. Okay, because we have this very, I would say, confusing data with, let's say, Instagram or anything like that, because we only sort of think of our success in this way, like let's say promoting our art simply by how many views did we get. We don't ask by whom those clicks were, who was viewing it, how it was done, etc. So that's almost becomes irrelevant. But what I would say, I tried many different ways before. I tried to be this guy that everyone will like, and therefore just sort of like all inclusive. It's for you and it's for you. My music is for everyone. And then I started to understand, like, I'm lying to myself. In fact, I turned away from this all-inclusive thing to all-exclusive. And that's very important. If you feel that you're doing something special, you don't want to scale it up. Let's say you have a very nice little restaurant where you know some food you're making is something special, okay? And you have those people that go all the time to a restaurant. The worst thing what you will do, you will scale it into some franchise, okay? You don't want McDonald's, okay? You actually want to keep it very special, just like those wonderful restaurants in Italy that they don't even have the title, the plaque that okay, this is a restaurant, because local people know that's a great restaurant, I want to go. Okay, so first thing, forget about scaling up. You need to find people who actually really appreciate and understand what you're doing. Okay, then of course some people would ask me, but then how are you going to how is that business model will work? Because those couple people, they just won't be able to sort of buy you lunch every day, and so again, it comes with an ambition, right? Because we live in the economy we live in. It's all based on this spending, scaling, like inflation. Right? The inflation model sort of we feel like it has to be everywhere in order to survive. We'll talk about money a little later. I just want to finish that conversation about why the all exclusive. The exclusive is like, have you ever thought this when you thought about this? You play a concert for some audience, and then you realize that they have no idea what you're doing on stage. They have zero clue. Imagine, let's say, you would play somewhere in a mall. Just imagine. Take your cello and play something in the mall. And the people will start. Some people will have some interest. There will be a lot of just going by, right? And then you realize that in order to attract those people who have no clue about music, they are random people. In order to attract them, you have to start flirting with them. So that the element of flirting with your audience is very, very dangerous, and potentially it ruins art. It ruins you, it ruins your art, it ruins your audience as well. Because imagine, speaking about little wonderful restaurant, imagine you invited all those people and now you have a huge restaurant, but then you realize all those people, they want not your some kind of crawfish etouffee, they want burgers and fries only. And that is the problem. And so then you realize that, oh, well, now instead of having a restaurant with meals that you want to cook, meals that where you know you're the best, now you just realize that, oh, now I just have a burger place. So what we don't want, that's exactly the great part about music, about the art, is that you find your niche, you find things that what you're good at. Don't try to be good at something that you don't believe in. Okay, I mean that's also a possibility, yeah. And then someone can be very successful in that way, but then you will hate your life. So because that's why I'm doing something that I never really meant to be doing. Okay.
So with that in mind, how do you then transition from being genuine in your art, making quality art, and making a living? And I'm not even talking about being rich. I'm just talking about, at this point,
just
sustainability.
Surviving. Just surviving. Well, I'm about to say something that many people just won't like. They will just switch off this podcast immediately. I was studying with Joe Banovitz when I was at UNT, and I was poor as a mouse. And one time I come to him and during the lesson I said like, "Oh, Joe, I don't have money here. I don't have this. I feel like I constantly have to like slave myself for some kind of peanuts, whatever." And then he got so angry. He hit the table and he said like, "If you want to have money, go be a banker." And then I was thinking like, that's a good idea. So I'm not saying that I'm a banker or anything like that, but I realize that there are easier ways. Okay, here's the thing. I do have some students, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 at most. 5 at most. Because I have to say that I don't care for teaching much, honestly. Especially, I don't care teaching like do, re, mi, fa, sol. I mean, all this, like the beginners wise. I mean, I feel like it's almost. I'm a very expensive and very irritated babysitter, so I'm not doing that. I have students who actually want to learn. They're more like they're teenagers, but I seek those students with correct attitude. Okay. Because I'm not there for them to become successful. I am for them to become to find meaning in music. Okay, that's what I'm there. So, but then how do I make money? I realize that there are actually other things that you can do to earn money in order to have time for your art. So you don't need to actually do your art for money. Okay, because then your art will be manipulated by money and by market and all this kind of stuff that we just talked about. Yes, you can be a teacher. You can have, let's say, a certain number of students. Some people can say that, well, yeah, but it's not much. It's not much money. Okay, so there are so many ways. There's so many financial models you can do. I mean, from being in the stock market or doing something like that. And I'm not saying I'm doing it, but I've tried all of it, okay? And I realized that, well, there are just easier way to make money than just slave yourself with sort of music pedagogy, okay? For composers and for performers in general, what you need to be looking for, going back to that all exclusive, out of that crowd who are exclusive, sure, Patreon, you can find patrons. We forget about this, but that's one of the core things that helped composers and musicians throughout the whole centuries. I mean, you cannot think of any single masterpiece without a patron standing behind it. Okay, there was always this artist-patron relationship all the time. We nowadays, we only look back like from 1950s up to now, thinking that well, governments took over and then they started to support and all the grants and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, but the problem with governments is that if you have to please them and you have to create things in relation to what they want. Okay, so but with patrons and with people who sort of appreciate your art because you found them, then you can pretty much ask if you can have some help, financial help. That's it, and that's very easy. And I know people, musicians, very often they feel like, oh, I don't want to talk, to ask for money. It's not begging for money. I mean, you will beg for many other things if you go into the system, and you will be a beggar, not a chooser, for sure. So here, at least, you talk to people who really sort of understand your art and want you to be independent artist. Okay, so that's one way. What I would say, if people go to my webpage, my website, you can see that I have a video message to my sponsors and potential sponsors, and I do have those people that they help me make some funds, make some make some money for my projects. I'm not asking their money for me. I'm asking their money for my projects. Okay, that is the key difference. Okay, just so I tell them, the only way you will hear this violin or piano concerto is so I don't have to slave away doing something else instead of composing it or instead of promoting it or anything like that. So that is important.
And is that how you monetized your piano concerto?
Monetization part. My own money probably makes up 70% of anything. So it all comes with the risk, and it all comes with compensation of something else. I mean, but look, I don't have a family in the sense like I don't have kids. So having kids is very expensive nowadays, right? So we are sort of.
I have one on the way.
Yeah, well, it's a difficult business to have a kid, especially nowadays, for example, United States. Okay. In my way, so I realized that, okay, well, I have money at my own. I can do whatever I want with my money. Okay. I can risk it with some projects and anything like that. Because without risk, you don't get anything. In Russia, we say, he who doesn't risk doesn't drink champagne. Okay, so you have to risk. The art, real art, requires risking. It's not. It never really worked, except there are a couple exceptions, like when people were writing on the commission. Those commissions, there are very rare cases in the music history. And for some reason, academia or anything else, they tell us that they only cherry pick those incidents where composers is writing for commission. I strongly recommend to everyone, people think that the most successful Russian composer is Tchaikovsky, right? Well, Tchaikovsky was broke all his life, just so you know that how wonderfully successful that composer was. He was broke. Okay, and if not von Meck, the lady who was helping him with lots of money, she had lots of money, we would probably not know, and many people would not hear those compositions back then. Okay, so we don't really even know what would come with Tchaikovsky's career and with Tchaikovsky's music. I recommend everyone to read the letters between Tchaikovsky and Taneyev, another wonderful Russian composer. When Taneyev was a concert pianist living in Paris, Tchaikovsky was writing to him saying, "Serежа, can you please ask Saint-Saëns how much would it cost me to create a concert of my own works in Paris?" And Taneyev was talking to Saint-Saëns and told him, well, it will be about something like 5,000 francs at the time. It's about 60,000 euros in nowadays. Okay, it's a lot. And Tchaikovsky said, well, I will try to find it. And then Tchaikovsky didn't make it. He couldn't find those funds. So his music did not come to Paris on time. It came only later. Okay, it's that's the reality. And unfortunately, we've been told the other reality, which is called an exception from the rule. Okay, when one is like Stravinsky, who pretty much all his life had lots of money, and they all the time sort of give us the scenarios like a ballet russe in France, that everyone was super famous and rich and whatever, or Rachmaninov, how he was a millionaire in the United States. Those are very rare cases. Or Rossini, who had whatever the network of restaurants in Rome, etc. I mean, those are crazy exceptions. Okay.
Mm. And now we see a lot of students trying to find careers through academia. Circling back for a moment, you had mentioned fake degrees and fake music. What do you mean when you say fake degrees and fake music?
Okay. I kind of want to. Yesterday, I was just a little bit reading. I will answer your question. I'm not dodging from it. But there's the Picture of Dorian Gray by very 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 famous, by Oscar Wilde, and so I don't like the book much, but I do like the preface that he wrote. And out of that preface, at the end, he does write this. I will quote. We can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely. And then at the end he finishes it. All art is quite useless. Okay, so there's we can talk about this, whether he's right or whether he was just sort of pulling a leg. But we kind of need to get away from this ivory tower of academia, where people, lots of musicologists talk, and this never-ending glass bead game where they create parallels between art and math and all sorts of things, finding some kind of meanings, perhaps somewhere where there's none possible. And that brings to attention that if all you do is you're creating this absolutely abstract ideas that don't relate to the audience that you're seeking, then it becomes useless. Useless in the sense that no one is listening to your music. So the music then becomes useless. Or maybe you created that music for a certain grant, and that music was performed once and put on shelf and never again was performed. That's a useless music. Okay? Because that music never really ignited the interest of the audience, and someone said, oh, let's play this, let's hear it again. Okay? How much? 99% of all this grand new music for grants being performed once, put on shelf. Okay? We just have to admit it. That's what it happens. It becomes useless in the sense that it did not drive the listeners emotionally, it didn't speak emotionally to them. So that all the parameters of music, the qualities of music, weren't there. Okay, or probably the music itself was not good. So we can talk about this and thinking that what kind of music do they teach to compose nowadays in the academia? Okay.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So it sounds like there's a tension right now between over commercialization of art, but then also creating art that's too niche. One of the things that I did to outline this about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, which I think you saw, I performed John Cage's 433, which was the great academic achievement of the 20th century in piano. But one of the things that I've noticed a lot of composers are creating right now is music in this sort of 12-tone serialism or atonal, where you sit there and you're supposed to find the meaning in what sounds like, I know it's not random, but what sounds like a random abstraction. On the flip end, why is this form of music not a form of music that just has a very niche audience, like we were talking about earlier? Like, what if there is an audience for atonal music and we just haven't discovered it yet? This sort of academic Hermann Hesse's glass speed game sort of reality that we're creating in the universities.
I will explain. It's very easy to create a music in a 12-tone system. Easy. You don't need pretty much anything for it. All other parts, all other aspects of qualities of music and skills in music, you don't need to create this. All you need, shuffle that matrix, find that row and find all those things, put it on paper. It's a drawing class, lines, etc. So it has, and then they say, okay, now let's see how it sounds. Oh, it sounds interesting, but it's an abstract. It's like imagine you're throwing utensils down the staircase, and whatever sound they make, you feel like, oh, that was kind of cool sound. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same principle. It's this. Forgive my French, but it's this bullshit that people hide behind their innermost lacks in skills. That's what it is. You know what's the hardest thing to do actually in composition? To create a good melody. That's the hardest thing to do.
Say more about that.
Yeah, the hardest thing in music, in art in general, is to create beautiful things without sounding kitsch. It's very easy to sound kitsch.
Okay? What do you mean when you say kitsch?
Kitsch is something like what, for example, like some kind of minimalism that sort of accompanies some kind of almost like a soundtrackish stuff. That's what I call kitsch. Like kitsch, that is like it's a shortcut for people who have no idea. Just like it's a picking up the berries that you see on the top of the grass, but not trying to dig deeper to the meaning. So it's like this very superficial beauty in one way. Okay, that's what I call kitsch. It's very hard to find an original theme, original melody created. It's like you have to, and then put it into a context of the form. Okay, just not just like a throw it out there, and because even the beautiful melody cannot survive if you don't put it in a you don't have good skills to put it in a good form. It's for a reason. People created form, musical form. Okay, it's like we, all those years of accumulation of traditions. Let's say starting from, if not medieval, but let's say from Renaissance up to the end of 19th century, where people would be making that Christmas tree more, with more beautiful, more pretty, putting things in. And starting from the beginning of 20th century, they started taking things off that Christmas tree. And nowadays, we just have the Christmas tree, not even a Christmas tree, it's already some kind of very bold bush. Okay? That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And that's pretty much music today. Think about this. So they decided to remove the melody, then they removed the harmonies, then they removed the form. And now what else do they have? They're only looking for some timbre. All they do, they work with timbre, extended techniques, all this kind of stuff. And of course, this again, flirting with an audience, saying like, well, let me why do I need to create, for example, why do I need to create this some kind of suite for cello if I just can go buy a cheap Chinese cello, get on stage and slam it against the floor and say, this is my statement. See what I mean? That's like a short-term gratification, short-term some kind of, it's a flirting with the audience in a, let's say, kind of shock content, right? That's it. You get quite, you can actually be quite famous quickly of that, or that banana to the wall, you know. It's the same thing. It's a provocation one way, but it has nothing to do with art. Nowadays we actually talk about art more philosophically rather than we're actually doing art.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's easier. Everyone is in comfort zone. It's easier to do that. Let's just have a little conversation, like with coffee, and like thinking like about where art is, because there's actually a lot of Joseph Knechts in today's world. For people who didn't read that book, Joseph Knecht was this magister, like a very brilliant guy who could create parallels between music and other forms of sort of human existence, like mathematics and physics and anything like that, and philosophies. So it's easier to, and again, egotistical to talk and demonstrate your brilliance of mind rather than create something. Because, by the way, another thing from Oscar Wilde, the artist is the creator of beautiful things, and to reveal art and conceal the artist is art's aim. I think that's a great, to reveal art and conceal the artist, to hide the artist, that's the art's aim. That's exactly the point why all this talk and all these people who like this TED Talks and all this kind of stuff, why it's actually relevant today, why we have so many sort of talkers but then you start seeing what they actually done, you feel like, why was I listening to that person? What does that person have to say except his brilliant mind? Okay, the product isn't there. Okay, so I think that is the important thing.
Let me try and for those who don't know, the topic that we're brushing around right now is postmodernism. Instead of beating around the bush, beating around the forest, if you will, of postmodernism. The argument would go, the postmodern argument would go something like this. We made reference to the banana taped to the wall. We made reference to the cello being smashed on the floor.
Yeah.
Art is a subjective experience that is individual to the person. So while it's true, yes, you, Arsentiy, might not appreciate the banana duct taped to the wall, this is something that when I look at it, I actually find it quite moving. I think it's very interesting. It provokes thought. There's even a hint of sort of deformed beauty, sort of like Tim Burton in his drawings. There's a deformity and a strangeness that I find really attractive. And you might not find it attractive, and that's fine. Because at the end of the day, it's subjective. We're exchanging opinions. Why are you saying that there is such a thing as fake music, fake degrees? Isn't that all just in the eye of the beholder, so to speak? What would you say to a person like that?
I probably would say, yes, you're correct. Enjoy your banana. But okay. But if it's actually a good argument. We do live in this postmodernism where people sort of question everything. They say like, well, it's a relativism, right? It's like, this is beauty. This is not beautiful for me. This is beautiful for this is beautiful for you, not beautiful for me, and vice versa. Or you see meaning here while I don't see meaning there. So it's like everyone is equal. I'm sorry. This is the kind of branch that goes from this Marxist manifesto that everyone is equal and all this kind of stuff. And I don't want to go into politics or anything like that, but that's what we see here. So instead of it's a sort of questioning the objective things of the past, saying that, well, they're actually very subjective, and in sense, yes, it depends how far you can zoom in or zoom out. Okay, we can, if we zoom in, we see a certain country with a certain cultural whatever code. We zoom out, we see our planet, we see lots of different cultures with very different codes, right? But then we see, okay, but it's now a planet, sphere. Then we zoom out, again, we see nothing. We zoom out further, we see actually a constellation. So it's how far zoom out, but it will always be kind of subjective, objective, subjective, objective, subjective, objective. It's how far you will zoom out, actually. Because, I mean, if we zoom out to the furthest extent of our imagination, we can actually come back to either extreme subjectivity, because all the world that surrounds you and surrounds me, we look at it differently. So the world that surrounds us is different for you and for me. So, I mean, we are going more like start talking about like more like philosophical trait, but the music is also part of it, because yes, it's a beauty in the eye of the beholder. But then again, if we make a little more effort and be more focused, we might start seeing a certain truth in things, and we start seeing that, oh well, yeah, this was this was a green smoke in the face, and this one is actually a real thing. I mean, it's just about being honest and certain things, you know. I don't remember. I think it was in the movie The Shawshank Redemption when his friends decided to find those different stones for him when he was whatever he was missing. So they for his chess, and they were all looking for alabaster, the stone. And so one guy quickly finds some kind of stone, and they tell him, "Well, excuse me, this is not a stone. This is calcified horse shit." Okay. For him, at a couple seconds, that was a real stone. Okay, he 100% thought that it was a stone. That's a real stone that he held in his hand. Okay, and that's exactly what we are very often subjected to. So we hear some kind of new music. We think, oh, it had a great impact on me. I start thinking. Then you come back in couple years back to it and realize, like, oh well, I kind of liked it, but yeah, it's a baloney. Okay, and by the way, that's what's the best sort of filter to define the great art from the sort of temporary fake art? Let's just put it this way. Time. How the art survives the time. How the certain music survives the time. So, considering that, we literally just can. So today, in the time of postmodernism, where we are surrounded by so many various, just like never stopping noise of various things, ideas from here, ideas from there, pop culture, the historical thing, because we have internet, right? Therefore, we can have references. Right, and lots of those references, they are fake references. Just like what I was telling about people who, let's say, the people were arguing about this Little Mermaid, right? They were saying like, oh, if we, to our audience, we think of, we ask them, think of mermaid. Who do you think they will be thinking first of all? They will be thinking about the cartoon, Walt Disney cartoon, 100%. Okay, they don't know that it was by Hans Christian Andersen. It was actually a very tragic story about mermaid, right? So that's what I'm saying is that again false references, and when we go back, the true art will survive. So no one really listens to Milton Babbitt's works today, but everyone likes to read his "Who Cares If You Listen" article. Okay, it's a little different. Again, we are talking about music, or we are actually making music. That's the point. But again, it's still at the end it will be a very subjective way. It's about. I would say it's a losing game right away if you try to prove to someone that the music that you like is the real art versus music that they like is the false art. No, it's a losing battle. And I think it shouldn't be even there. The only way we can bring forth art that we like is that we will be knowledgeable about that art. Second of all, we will have a genuine desire to share it. That's all, and that's all. That's the only way it can actually survive. The only way that some people have some possibilities to appreciate it. Mm-hmm. But again, I mean, how can one appreciate certain thing when they are not prepared for it? In order to be prepared for it, at least what they have to do is to have an effort to hear it. Let's say music is the hardest one to do because it's the most abstract. It's in the air. You listen to it once and then it's gone. And there are lots of various phenomena about music. Let's say there are certain composers and great composers. There are certain composers whose music sort of always impressive from the first try, from the first listen. Let's say, like, I would say Saint-Saëns or Mendelssohn. Their music is like, everyone likes it right away, everyone is excited. And then, I'm not talking about those composers in particular, but if you listen to it again and you feel like, well, I kind of read that book, fine. And there are some composers, you listen, you first like, okay, you feel like intuitively there's something really great about it, but you just didn't digest it. And so you want to listen to it again, and you want to listen to it again. And every time you listen, you start opening like worlds. Like, let's say, like listening to Missa Solemnis by Beethoven. It's like it's a never-ending journey for me. Every time I listen to it, like the worlds are opening. I mean, I discover myself. It's not just that you're discovering music; you're discovering yourself. That's what it's actually all about. So we are not talking about music. We are talking about our human brain and how the activities of our human brain sort of.
Yeah, I heard a quote recently. I can't remember who had said it, but it was if you look at a beautiful, let's say, painting and you try to analyze it, immediately you are trying to own the thing. You're trying to rationalize it within your own brain. But if you stop analyzing it and just experience it, then the art, in this case, the painting, captures you. And I thought that was a very interesting way of approaching art. That when we try and over-analyze, over-intellectualize, I see a lot of, and I don't want to name names, but let's say, musicologists and theorists who try and they do a sort of intellectualist, reductionist breakdown of the music, reducing it down to its smallest bits, and then they'll put up a graph and say, oh, and here's the music. It's like, well, obviously that's not the music. You've shown me a scientific graph of something. It's not music. Fine. On the flip end, because the universities, and I don't know whether you would agree with this, but universities are so ensconced, let's say, in postmodernism, the conversation of what is music in the first place does seem to be, at the very least, an important one, particularly because of the schism between academics and the rest of the world. If the music that's being produced by academia is the glass bead game, music just written for other people with ridiculous rules, and it's, as we said, fake, and the music being produced by the masses is mostly, let's say, commercialized flirting with the audiences and not great, genuine, transcendent art. It's not steak, it's McDonald's. Then how do we begin to bridge this gap between academia and the masses? How do we get rid of this artificial wall right now, open up the doors of the ivory tower, so to speak, to begin an open dialogue between the two?
Well, if you would ask me this question like maybe 5 years ago, I would probably think like you just need to dismantle the ivory tower. It's like you need to break the dam in order to that the flood will get and some mixed things, and so maybe some good things will go. Unfortunately, both of those systems, even people think like the pop culture and pop music is like it's a natural system. It's actually not natural system either, because it's all based on tracks and all the on algorithm. If something is listened more, it bumps up, and then at the end you have this absolutely artificial, horrible piece of music or anything like that everyone is listening, and everyone is being shoved in their throat or in their ears, you know. So there are both systems. That's the problem. So the either you have this system of Spotify. And you're functioning within the system of Spotify or Apple, whatever, iTunes, or you have a system of this academia where you climb the ladder and sort of go under. I probably will say it. I'll under this modernist mafia. Okay. I mean, since 1955, after this. Darmstadt composers. I mean, they infiltrated every academia, and since then, writing a beautiful piece of music, they would think that, oh, are you crazy? No. And then at the same time, some in the pop culture, actually, maybe in the jazz field or in some pop songs, let's say, back then, there were still, you could tell, oh, there's some elements of beauty. Again, we were talking about the kitsch, but it's still somewhat people were looking for how to please the ears of their audience. So now, but now what would be right now? I'm not really sure. I do have this innate desire to break both systems and actually go into like a small individual lots of artists, but the problem again, the artists they go directly to, oh, you create something, you go and submit it to DistroKid or anything like that, CD Baby or whatever, and then you're again in that system that someone is doing it for you. So then again, I'm thinking that everyone has to risk being all exclusive. Let's say my music you can listen only on my website, for example. Okay, I'm not giving it to Walt Disney. I'm not giving it to Warner Brothers or anything like that. I'm doing it by myself. And then other things. That's the only way. The same thing with the universities. I mean, but the universities, I believe, the cliff is coming. The cliff that is coming. So there will be lots of universities. This whole phenomenon of music education, I think it will be reduced to the small where it's supposed to be, actually, where you have, look, in Russia we had two conservatories originally, okay, two conservatories for the country, yes, 140 million. Of course, there are some provincial conservatories, but mostly for folk-oriented, okay. In the United States, there's just way too many. It's just academia just grew. It's just now. It's so heavy, it just won't survive in the long run. It just won't survive. I mean, do you remember the Elon Musk? He did say that pretty much all the skills you want to learn, you can learn them for free from the internet. And by the way, there are certain things very. I mean, of course, the learning skills at the instrument, you need to have a teacher, but you don't. Again, you don't need to go to the conservatory or to university in order to learn how to play. Okay, you can actually play. I mean, somehow people before just survived fine. Beethoven didn't study at the conservatory, you know. Schubert didn't study at the conservatory.
Didn't have to win any competitions. I know you're a huge fan of competitions, but I just have to throw that out there.
I'm a huge fan of competitions. Yeah. By the way, that's another system. That's like that's like a mold. That's like a mushroom that's growing on the top of that dying tree. Okay, those things. But again, they're there for what reason? Because people want to feel that it's the mirage of a feeling that you're successful. Sure, fine. I mean, there are some people who will say like, but still the competitions, sometimes they're helpful for people to be heard. Maybe. If we're talking about the very big competitions, maybe. But again, if you ask me who won the last Tchaikovsky competition, let's say in the category of cello or violin or piano, I'm not sure, actually. And majority of people will be not sure. That just tells you, again, the inflation of the competitions.
Sure.
I kind of don't. I don't really want to sound. I kind of hear myself. I sound very bitter, but I'm not. It's not my intention. I'm actually very optimistic about music because all this foam will subside, and the true artists and true music and true art will still survive. It will still survive. It's okay. It's okay. So all these people who say like, it's a horrible thing. We are all sinking. We are all dying. No, we are not dying. We are not sinking. The academia is dying. These inflated bubbles are going down. So that's fine.
Speaking of that, I did want to ask you about your compositions. And I wanted to ask you first, how does your creative process work? And where do these ideas you have come from? And I'm specifically referring to, because you have a lot of works, I'm specifically referring to your piano concerto, but also you wrote a solo cello piece for Cicely Parnas. Yes. And she's shout out to Cicely. I think she's great, by the way.
Oh, she's by the way, also very much against the system.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, how does my composition process work? It works very differently. It's like I'm going to this purgatory state of balancing conscious and unconscious part of my brains. So, the best shortcut for it, get a little booze. No, but I'm not suggesting people to go get drunk. No, but for example, that was the main source and resource for, let's say, Sibelius to compose. He could not compose a single note without his scotch. Okay.
What do you drink when you compose?
No, I don't drink. I don't drink when I compose, but I look for that state. I call it the process of go fishing. Go fishing for an idea. For the great part for go fishing, because I'm a quite skilled performer, pianist, it's enough for me to go, let's say, to this instrument and just start improvising. And improvisation, what is improvisation? Improvisation is it can be a result of total nonsense, and then you can record yourself. We have devices today. You can record yourself and just thinking, then listen back and think like, oh, that was actually an interesting idea already consciously. Okay, but when you improvise, you kind of want to just try to be as in this like alpha state as much as possible, that you are not present, but you're just gonna want to be expressed. You want to express one way or the other. So that's the first stage of the composition. You go fishing for an ideas. You write them down, those ideas. What is an idea in general? The idea is some kind of leitmotif. You have a melody. You have some kind of maybe harmonic progression, original maybe, and then combination of those three. Then comes already a conscious process. of absolutely just a skill, how you put it down and what you start constructing. It's a construction. The difficult part about music versus, for example, architecture. Architecture is also construction, but there are lots of elements in every, let's say, building or bridge. Is that we don't see them. We only see the dominant structures. That, let's say, like Golden Gate Bridge. You only see the dominant. You see the towers and you see the truss in between, right? But you don't see all those little details, like, I mean, how it's, what's the foundation, what's it built in, how far and go. So you can hide those things in architecture. You can't hide them in music. Everything is visible. Everything is visible in the sense that we hear everything that is there. Okay, and therefore, it's the hardest process is to find a good form so that all your ideas are being very coherent. Okay, you want to, if you have a very good idea, you want to look or seek for a form that will be the most suited for that idea to be expressed. It goes strictly back to the just idea. How many times can you repeat that idea in order so that idea will get and stick and will stay in the head and the memory of your listener? So we kind of go from that, and then you find the best possible way. That's where you can be super original, by the way, very original about how you construct, how many movements you want. Do you want it to be one movement piece? For example, that piano concerto that you're referring to. Originally, I thought that, well, it will be 3-movement piece, 3-movement work. Then I thought, why 3 movements? It can be all 1 movement. Okay, like going like Franz Liszt was doing, like a very cyclical form, and like a theme transformation, etc., etc. Then I thought, no, in today's world with people with a very short attention span, it's probably not good just to throw them that huge behemoth thing in 1 movement. They will be tired. So I thought that maybe it's a good idea to go back and to work within movements. Okay, clear, like chapters. Okay, because for many people, reading books that have smaller chapters, big books but smaller chapters, is easier rather than reading small book with huge chapters. Sometimes very demanding, and they lack the focus. So that's pretty much how it all is done. And then, of course, I don't really write quite quickly, and I have okay, well, I will just show that I have horrible handwriting, and but I do use pencil and paper to write it down. And then when I have to write the scores and the orchestral scores, of course I have to be very precise. And I have ADD like crazy, and so I mean, I'm working and functioning in a short segments of time. But before I even put things on paper, this idea is sort of spinning in my head. So I'm constantly going I'm in labor all the time, like being pregnant with that idea. Okay, and when I already sort of really feel that, oh, it's ready to be written, then I write it quickly. Okay, so that's how it is. Then when you have a first sort of performance, if the piece is performed, so far at least, I didn't have many cases where I would want to rework the piece. Because again, I have, I guess, maybe good imagination, and I kind of hear it inside my head first. I mean, how it's done. There are a couple places where I would maybe change the orchestration or something like that. Just a couple things, just purely acoustically, because it's I just wish that some composers would revise their compositions, because acoustically they. For example, the Symphonia Concertante by Prokofiev, fantastic, one of my favorite works for cello and orchestra. But there are some low brass just annihilates that cello. We don't hear. I mean, it's like, why do you need to prepare all those fiendishly difficult passages, when in the reality that trombone will blow you out. It's like no one will hear a single thing. They still like you're working hard, but they don't hear it. So there are these aspects that I would revise, let's say, in my music if I have some of it. But in general, I just want to tell to our listeners, to viewers, that for me, composition process is not a process that, I just enjoy, I just have this. No, it's like you're in labor. You're in labor. It's a very, very meticulous and sometimes it's the process that you don't want to go into, but you kind of have to, because at the end you want to express things. So it's a rather difficult, very difficult process, painful process, for me at least, because I do have that ambition. I would like my compositions to be heard and played. I'm writing them, composing them, not for the grant, not for commissions, not all that kind of stuff. I compose them because I want them to be heard, because I want to be, because that's something very intimate and something very strong thing that I have in my mind that I want to express. And of course, I do want people to listen to them, and I want performers to align with it as well emotionally, so they can actually bring their own their own part into it. Okay, so that is important for me. I believe that I want my music to be human oriented, with the human qualities. I don't want my music to be this go figure it out, this is a message for aliens. Okay. So
how much does narrative play a role in what you compose?
What do you mean by narrative?
Well, for example, and this is a more extreme example, but in Scheherazade, for example, Rimsky-Korsakov's Scheherazade,
yes.
There's the underlying narrative of the 1001 Nights that's throughout the piece. And when you're listening to the piece, you can actually, even if you're not familiar with the story, you can hear it unfolding in a manner that it's describing events or describing a story, in this case, a narrative. And I've seen a lot of older composers, but also some new, and it's more obvious in symphonies, but newer symphonic composers, film composers who incorporate their symphonies into films, using narrative or ideas of narratives while they are composing. And I didn't know if this was something that you also engaged in.
I understand what you're saying. Yes. Okay. So originally we would say it's like programmatic music that has some line in it, right? And then from there we have this music tool, which what we call text painting, right? So it's like whatever happens, like before it was like Jacques Arcadelt in his madrigals, he would use it, whatever the text is saying, the music sort of right away accompanies and portrays. It's a good skill to have in order to at least attract people who are not so equipped right away to hear the music, to hear and to sort of draw the parallels on lines and symbols, okay, or cracking the symbols, okay. It's a good tool. I use it in one way or the other. For example, in my symphonic poem, which is The City of Dees, which is based on the book. And there are some certain things that if people who read the book, The Divine Comedy, they would hear it right away. Oh, this is this and this is that. This is the gates of hell. This is this. Like, I mean, you can. It's easy, but again, it's so again. One has to be in balance and not to overdo it, oversold things. Again. Because there is a possibility to flirting with an audience. Okay, there is again a possibility in that idea. The example of Scheherazade, fantastic example, because the composer there really, I mean, he had phenomenal taste. It is done with taste, and then of course you have Mahler, who in his symphonies he wanted to express his he wanted to code his life torments, living in a very anti-Semitic society, right? So we know about the first symphony, and then all this Frère Jacques, how he transformed it into like a Jewish funeral march, etc. So and then of course we know Shostakovich, how he was using those same ideas, how his cynicism and his combination of a almost like a hell on earth and a ridiculous this drama and tragedy, with that is next to a very sarcastic, cynical, nonchalant music. How that, like say, thinking about his Fourth Symphony or the Eighth Symphony, and of course, and then all this musical signatures. I mean, I have a couple, but I don't really want to talk about them. But I do have it. I don't know. Maybe it's for myself. I don't know. It's a. Again, I'm not saying that I'm different from the rest of people. I have my human qualities that that I personally don't like. But and I can tell that sometimes they manifest in the music that I write. Okay. In fact, I will say even more so. There are some works that I compose that I don't like now, considering like back and think like, well, that was BS, and that was a random thing. It was just like a temporary fluke. Okay. As well as I can tell, I don't think there's a single piece of music written by great composers where I like everything. Okay, I mean we have rhythm, we have hierarchies in music. There's something strong, there must be something weak later. Okay, and again, if we zoom in really well, we see that there's a dissonances resolved to consonances, right? There's a constant daylight and dark. All the time, shadows. So and then there are certain elements in music where a composer has to create it in order to make a bridge between the idea one and an idea two. That's it. So that little part in music, for example, some sonata, is purely technological thing, just to get from point A to point B. Okay, it doesn't really say anything there. Or she, doesn't matter. Okay, so music is a process. We constantly think of it. Oh, it's some kind of because we have recordings all the time nowadays. So we almost think like, the musical phenomenon doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's just you can always play it. You can always play it. But remember, people before, music is something what you hear once, and then it stays here, and starts evolving in your head, because the music itself just flew. That's it. It's this mystical mystery phenomenon, acoustic phenomenon. It's a temporary. It's based on time, and nowadays we think like, we can just put it on the wall like a painting, because we have those musical corpses, what we call CDs or recordings, and therefore we think like, now we function differently. We don't have the element of what I mean. We, like the society, we don't have an element when we listen to certain music that this is the only time you will listen to it. You will never hear it the same. Okay, so yeah.
The last question I always ask, in this spirit of positivity and not just being critics, what is a positive vision of the world that you, Arsentiy, would like to manifest?
Positive vision of the world. I hope that the positive vision of the world. I believe I'm an optimist actually in general. I think that we have so many tools right now. So many tools. We have so much freedom that we take for granted. I believe this is you wanted my positivity. I mean, the positive.
I know I'm asking a Russian for a positive.
Yes, yes. It's like it's like Okay, the positivity is that through music and through all this endless possibilities to hear great music, to listen to wonderful music that is out there, it is there. Everyone just needs to dig deeper. Okay, and we have a. I will say this one little thing. We are fooled that just because we can Google things quickly, that we get right away the product that we want, or the goal that we were seeking for. No, it's a mirage. Okay, it's a false. It's not there. So we have to really dig. So if anyone wants to dig into and finding beautiful, magical moments in the art, and there are so many, have some effort and focus and just dig deeper, and you will get it, and you will be happier. Okay, so that's probably my the positive view of the world, because we do have those tools. That's the great part. I mean, imagine this. I mean, before, I remember when I was in College of Music, for me to listen to some Mettner piano concerto, I had to go to a special place in the conservatory where they would find maybe one LP with a whole hideous quality, and I would be listening to it and think, right now, all you need to do, write it on YouTube for free. You will hear. We have so much exposure to great things. That's the great part. Ray Bradbury, with his Fahrenheit 451, his sort of gloomy view on the future is that people will be burning books. Now we know people will never burn any books. The only thing, they will not burn the books. They will just not read them. Okay. So the great part is that no one will take your art away from you. No one will take your desire for beauty away from you. It's all up to you. That's the great part. So it's all up to everyone. I'm like a true libertarian. You can say that. It's all up to everyone what kind of quality of life they want to have, and including the quality of art they want to have.
Arsentiy Kharitonov. No, I didn't say it right. Oh, terrible. Thanks for your time.
You're very welcome.